Hey, what's up, everyone? Toni here. Welcome to your Pro Wrestling Weekend News Update for Sunday, December 15th, 2024. I know we usually do these on Saturdays, but we wanted to wait until Saturday night's main event went off the air before we did this update. And little news for our regular weekly friends out there who join me for my shows. There is no sit-down episode tonight. I am going to be taking Sunday night off because, number one, I'm recording this so late in the evening. Not only that, the video YouTube version of this news update that I'm doing right now, I have to splice in thumbnails and video and put all that together after I'm done with this audio update. So by the time I'm done, it's probably going to be like 4:30 in the morning. So I think it's a little bit overload to put this out there and then do a sit down. So after this news update, Kevin and I will be live for the Toni and Kevin Castle show Monday night, 10:15 p.m. after Raw on our Discord channel, dtkcdiscord.com. So I will be taking Sunday night off for the sit down this week. But don't forget, Kevin and I will be live next Sunday at 8 p.m. right here on YouTube for a special Christmas episode of the Toni and Kevin Castle show. If you enjoyed the Thanksgiving special that we did, you will absolutely love this Christmas one. So, all right, we got a lot of wrestling news to get into. Definitely check out the update I did Friday night because we talked about a ton there as well. Going to get into Saturday night's main event. And listen, these news updates are more news oriented. I do opine a little bit as well, give my little spin, but the shows I do with Kev and Patreon and Sundays is really where we get into the meat and potatoes of discussion. But I definitely want to chime in a little bit on what happened in Saturday night's main event, but it's not just WWE news to get into. TNA obviously had a lot of things go down this weekend. Somebody making a shocking return to TNA. Interesting to see the IWC trying to like spin it a certain way because they don't like this individual for the most part. So her shocking return we'll talk about in a little bit. I'll let you know who that is. Well, it's Tessa Blanchard. We'll get into that later. A shocking exit from TNA. None of us saw this coming this quickly. After Rhino getting inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame not too long ago, he's gone. That's it. He's not out of wrestling, but apparently his contract is done with TNA. He's out of there. Suddenly it feels like there's a little bit of an exodus in TNA, doesn't it? You think about Speedball Mike Bailey. There's been reports of Josh Alexander, and then Jordan Grace is WWE bound soon. So, and then we got to see what happens with Joe Hendry. I have something interesting to say about Joe Hendry a little bit, so we got to talk about that. Obviously, got to get into what happened with Eddie Edwards and the fan at Final Resolution. That was a little bit exaggerated online by the news world, so we'll clear up a little bit from there. The main event for the first Raw on Netflix has been revealed. Roman Reigns taking on Solo Sikoa. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I want to open up with Saturday night's main event. Couple of quick thoughts, give you some match results. Kevin and I elaborate a little bit more on Monday night. Saturday night's main event made its return. Last time, I believe it was 2006. Long Island, New York, where it all started, my neck of the woods. And, I have been off social media the last couple of days since the Ray Phoenix stuff that gave me a massive headache. And I went on social media about an hour before I'm recording this, was talking to a few friends of mine. I actually talked to someone who was at WWE Saturday night's main event behind the scenes, gave me a reason that's floating around as to why Hulk Hogan was not there. And when I tell you the reason, you'll be like, oh, shit. We should have all thought of that. Think about it. You'll figure it out. But I've been off social media, and tonight, about an hour before I'm doing this, I said, let me go see the overall vibe, how people felt about this event. And I'm not trying to toot Kevin I's horns. Not only do we predict every match outcome correctly, and Kevin got to give a little extra special credit for it because he predicted Meechin and Chelsea Green in the final. Even though we both picked Chelsea Green to win, he chose Meechin, I chose Bailey. just to go to the final. But Chelsea Green, congrats to her. I got something to say about her win as well in a little bit, and something with fake news that was floating around that pissed me off tonight. But I wanted to see the overall vibe, because this is not to disrespect Saturday Night's Main Event. I grew up on that. The first episode is still instilled in my brain so much that when Joe Tessitore mentioned that he was wearing a red bow tie to pay tribute to Mean Gene Okerlund, I know, because we watched Mean Gene for decades. He always wore a black bow tie for the most part. Sure enough, I type in Mean Gene bow tie on Twitter, and you got these people out there trying to make these insult statements like, Joe, Vince always wore the black bow tie, very poor, dedicated. I'm like, shut the fuck up. The first ever Saturday Night's Main Event also took place in Nassau Coliseum almost 40 years ago, and Mean Gene Okerlund was wearing a red bow tie that night as well. I don't understand why people do that. Just enjoy the event. You just you always feel like they're on the rag or something. Just stop. I saw that and it pissed me off. But what I also noticed was, and this is what I was trying to get at a moment ago, some people out there I thought were really setting the bar for Saturday Night's Main Event way too high. I mean, I'm still confused why people were just losing their shit that Cody was coming out with the Winged Eagle. It's a beautiful belt. Brings back a lot of memories for me growing up as a wrestling fan. But that's yesteryear. Coming out wearing a prop, people were just going over the top about it. And listen, it's great for people to be excited. But then the Saturday Night's Main Event airs and like, wow, so many commercials. Oh my God, too many clean finishes. Oh, some of these matches were short. Oh my God, Kevin Owens, what happened with Cody after they went off the air, and Triple H, that should have been on TV. And you're like hearing complaint. And I'm like, come on. They set the bar way too high. They did not understand what Saturday Night's Main Event is. It is a house show that happens to air a half a dozen times on primetime television, NBC. NBC is not Fox. NBC also has different advertisers. It's a different culture. Their programming is set up differently. So this was not going to be premium live event quality. The ticket prices were fairly reasonable. I was going to go. I decided to stay home for various reasons, but ticket prices, even if I had to pay to go, it was not bad at all, unless you wanted to sit ringside and bring home a chair and pay $1,000. But, overall, people out there were hyping this up to something that it's really not. And in the future, sure, you will have some swerves. There'll be some angles. This was just to set the tone and just show everyone, that what WWE is all about in 2024. I enjoyed it tremendously because I knew what we were going to get. Jesse Ventura was great. I have made it no secret. I've been doing these shows going back to the Hotline days in 1997. I grew up watching wrestling for the first time in 1979. I grew up on Jesse Ventura. Not just his AWA stuff when he was teaming East-West Connection with Adrian Adonis, wrestling in the WWF, and then moving on to commentary, to WCW stuff. I mean, I loved everything that Jesse did. Then, he left and became the governor, and I still like that as well. I still feel Jesse Ventura and Donald Trump in some ways gave me similar vibes when they first started running for office. It's different now, but when Jesse over 10, 15 years ago started to really get radical with a lot of his views, just really found myself disliking the man. But over the last couple of years, it feels like he has mellowed out, kind of let a lot of things go. I mean, obviously, the gist with him and Hulk Hogan is not going to get resolved. I mean, even Jesse announced during Saturday Night's Main Event, he'll be on the next one in San Antonio. I could picture him telling the Triple H, I will be at every Saturday Night's Main Event. Even when I'm dead, I'll still be there. Just as long as Jesse's there, Hulk is probably not going to be there. And yeah, that's what the person told me behind the scenes. Said, any reason why Hulk was not there tonight? Well, I got 2 words for you. The body. The body. I'm like, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense now. But I thought Jesse did good enough. Obviously, he's up there in age. He hasn't been around wrestling for a while. He still has the charisma. If you pay close attention, he has to think a little bit more before he talks. Even when he was on ESPN yesterday with Peter Rosenberg and Michael Kay, you could feel he had to like pause a little bit when he was talking about Stephen A. Smith and Mad Dog Chris Russo. Go back and watch the segment if you didn't, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But love the retro feel of his heat, throwing shade to the Rhodes family. Reminded everyone that he had never wrestled Dusty in his career. But Jesse, they didn't use him too little, and they didn't use him too much. He was out with Joe Tessitore in the back, right near the rampway, as they used to do back in the day, and he's commenting about what we were going to see, commented halfway in, and he was at the commentaries table for the main event. Thought he did great. As far as the legends that were there, now obviously we explained Hulk Hogan, but if I'm going to complain about anything with Saturday Night's Main Event tonight, this is what I'm going to complain about. The legends that they had with Tito Santana, Coco Beware, Jimmy Hart, Greg the Hammer Valentine, and Rich Herring. Now, for those that may have a short-term memory, Rich Herring got the Warrior Award 3 years ago. And that caused a lot of controversy. I remember a lot of people at that time, they should have given it to this person, a Warrior Award. And then last 2-3 years, that's, the Warrior Award, you give it to someone like Shad Gaspard, you give it to someone there, like being a lifelong WWE corporate guy, 50 years, he definitely earned to go into the WWE Hall of Fame. But most people interpreted the Warrior Award as something entirely different. It's not his fault, guys. But they honored him tonight, which I thought was nice, especially since he abruptly retired because of the merger. His services really were not needed much anymore. But I'll tell you, again, if you're forcing me to complain about anything tonight, this is 2 times now that Triple H has been at the helm for nostalgia shows. They did the ECW one recently with NXT. Now they did Saturday Night's Main Event. And I tell you, there are wrestlers out there that are just logical, common sense. If you're going to bring a nostalgic theme show you bring them in. ECW, even though I love all these people involved, but if you say to me as a lifelong ECW fan, you tell me Sabu, Shane Douglas, Sandman were not available, I think that's a little ridiculous. That's what they came up with. And now tonight, you think about the first Saturday Night's Main Event. I mean, I get it. Maybe Wendy Richter wasn't available. Maybe Cyndi Lauper wasn't available. But there are definitely a lot of other legends that are still alive. And it feels to me now that what Triple H is doing is he understands nostalgia will get a little bit extra attention. But it almost feels like, let's just go to the bottom of the barrel, or let's just fill up a couple of names. And this way, okay, how can you do nostalgia without bringing back some nostalgia? You know what I mean? So they just throw some names out there, but they're not the names that we immediately associate Saturday Night's Main Event with. Now, listen, Saturday Night's Main Event's a little different too, because a lot of people are unfortunately deceased. But, again, it just feels, especially with WWE stock, $140 a share. They can afford it, guys. And it just feels like they're doing it on the cheap. One other complaint, and I understand why people complained about this. I'm going to make it clear. I totally understand it. But I noticed a lot of people who are young that were like, why is the rampway so close to the fans? Oh my God, could they be any closer? I'm afraid Liv Morgan might get groped. Meacha might get groped. You think I'm joking? Go search it on Twitter. You'd be shocked how many people were complaining about it. Now, yes, you don't sacrifice security for nostalgia. That setup was very old school. Very Saturday Night's Main. Listen, one of the first Saturday Night's Main events, Cyndi Lauper got groped. She ran down the rampway to celebrate Wendy Richter's win, and somebody grabbed the chest. Go back and watch it. You'll see it. Luckily we haven't had incidents, at all. So it's a very rare. Plus we got to give humans a benefit of the doubt that not everybody's thinking, if they're close to wrestlers, I'm going to grab somebody as they're coming down. But, I also thought about this tonight. Whenever wrestlers brawl around ringside area, especially when they're by the padded guard barricades, the fans are right there. They could literally reach over the barricades. So it's not like fans aren't close to the wrestlers already. So, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. So I didn't think that was a big deal, but just really interesting to see the complaints that were going around online tonight. But overall, I thought it was a great setup. It definitely gave me the nostalgic feel. My concern is that anybody that was tuning in to have that nostalgic feel got their fix. And, if it's going to be watered down, which it will in the future, how many people are going to go out of their way to watch a Saturday night WWE show when you got Netflix? That's going to be a lot more, I don't want to say adult oriented, but it's not going to be watered down, obviously. And SmackDown to an extent, it's just, put it this way, if you can't get enough of the WWE, you watch Saturday night's main event too. That's how I look at it. But it's definitely something that you can miss, I think, in the future, unless something big goes down and you go back and you watch it. I definitely expect swerves and angles and, turns in the future, maybe a championship change here and there. But keep in mind, it's more like a house show that happens to be on nationwide television 4 to 6 times a year. So we'll talk about Kevin Owens, what happened after. And that's another thing, too. People were complaining about how many commercials tonight, more than you usually get on cable. Imagine if Cody would have retained the championship with 10, 15 minutes left in the night. They would have went to a commercial. I mean, it's just, it's the logistics. You can't go that far. But anyway, very quickly, match results from tonight. Drew McIntyre, clean win over Sami Zayn. Drew McIntyre with massive heat right now. And if you haven't figured it out, Drew McIntyre doing what he did on Busted Open 2 days before Saturday night's main event is done by design. A day before SmackDown. And what he did with Jimmy Uso was done by design. We'll talk about Drew McIntyre and his Busted Open appearance in a few moments. I have the clip. I will share it with everyone. But Drew McIntyre did get the clean win on Sami Zayn. After the match was over, he was in the back and cut a little video and said, 1 down, 4 to go.
One down, 4 to go.
And if you think about it, the 4 includes CM Punk. Liv Morgan retains the Women's World Championship, defeating Io Sky. People were a little bit upset at how short this match was and that Io lost cleanly. I think the biggest buzz coming out of this is, did Liv Morgan suffer a broken nose? Towards the end of the match, Io Sky hits Liv Morgan with an errant knee to the nose. Her nose got busted open. She ends up hitting Oblivion, Liv Morgan for the win. She goes down the rampway and Rhea Ripley's music hits and they just have a stare down. Nothing physical. I don't know if anything was planned to be physical. Maybe it was stopped because of the nose. I don't think so. I think the face-to-face was to set up Netflix. I have a feeling, and there is news about the transfer window. What Kevin and I said on Monday ends up being 100% true, that the transfer window is going to be trades. It's not going to be draft. It's going to be trades. We had a big conversation about that on Monday, and some of you out there admit it. You were like, you guys, I don't think it's going to be that. Yeah, it's trades. I had a weird feeling that Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio are going to be traded to SmackDown. Get a weird feeling. So for everybody that feels that Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, that feud needs to end, I'm telling you, I got this weird feeling Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan for the Women's Championship, first Raw in the Netflix era, and then Liv Morgan, possibly Dominic Mysterio, gets traded to SmackDown. Wouldn't that be something if they end up breaking up the Judgment Day because of a trade, not because of a storyline, swerve, or a turn? That I wonder how people would react to that. So, Gunther retains the World Championship, defeating Finn Balor and Damian Priest in a three-way. This was a great match. Damian Priest, super over being in New York. Fans loved it. Even were given "This Is Awesome" chants during it. Towards the end of the match, there was a spot outside. Gunther was supposed to powerbomb Damian Priest onto the steps. And Damian Priest, as tall as he is, accidentally hit the step with his foot. So Gunther lost his momentum picking up Damian Priest, and he almost had to pick up Damian Priest like just, like dead weight, which, looked impressive, but he got Damian Priest up and powerbombed him on the steps, and then he hits Finn Balor with the running kick into the corner, and then power slam. 1, 2, 3. Gunther retains the World Championship. Chelsea Green is your first United States Women's Champion. She defeated Meechin. Jessica Carr was the referee. This was a great match. Meechin was over, but Chelsea Green was over more. The fans in Long Island wanted Chelsea Green to win it. She was the favorite. Michael Cole did mention that her win aired 7 years to the date. The last time that Chelsea Green won the first time Chelsea Green won a championship. Now, Chelsea Green had won gold prior. And there's a little, argument going on online right now about this. But yes, 7 years ago, Saturday night, Chelsea Green, as Laura Van Ness in Impact Wrestling, beat Rosemary in a tournament final to become the Knockouts champion. It was vacant at the time. Thing is that win actually took place on November 8th. It didn't air on television until December 14th. So they're going with December 14th as the date. But still, Chelsea Green winning it was great. Now, here's what pissed me off. I honestly thought we were going to, when Nick Aldis raised Chelsea Green's arm in the air, and Chelsea Green did that, yes, I honestly thought we were going to hear Tiffany Stratton's music. I thought we were going to hear "It's Tiffy Time," and I'm a big fan of Tiffany Stratton. Don't get me wrong. I want to see her cash in and win gold. Number one, I wanted Chelsea Green to have her moment tonight, Saturday night, and she did, which is great. But then I realized why I really started thinking that she was going to lose the belt. And that's because of the fake news floating around online. And you want two wonderful examples of the bottom of the barrel news reporting out there. This is one of the things. I know Twitter has become the biggest news outlet out there, and some people still have a problem with that. And I do to an extent too, because it's been revealed, obviously, that, hey, I could post fake news and still make a whole load of money off of it. And that's what's happening in the wrestling world. Being able to monetize anybody that gets a certain number of views is to me, I don't know if it's ridiculous, but it just opened the floodgates for bullshit. And the problem is that, yes, it's my job and Kev's job to sift out the bullshit and it never reach our shows. That's why you never heard us, even during the news reports this week, you never heard me say there's reports going around there's going to be a major title change at Saturday night's main event. We never got into it because none of the people that I speak to and none of the places that I, research and get my news from were reporting the same thing. But you want two great examples of what I'm talking about. I'm going to show it to you on the screen now. I'm not going to mention their names verbally. They don't deserve the credit. But as you will see, you have news outlets reporting that they got from their sources a major title change is taking place at Saturday night's main event. Look at the number of hits, 700,000, 800,000. Before I finish recording this episode, one of those clips is going to be over 1 million. You know why? They don't take down when they're wrong or they write fake news. Because right now you have tons of people who bought into their bullshit all week are going back on their Twitter pages now and saying, oh, you were wrong. Oh, what the fuck? You lied to us as well. That's what they want. So they'll welcome thousands, hundreds of thousands of people cursing them out, because they get more money off of it. And you know what's bad about it? All the wrestling news sites that run with it. They don't just ignore it or just say, you know what, I can't verify that, so I'm not covering it. No, they'll just run with it. And if it ends up being wrong, to say, well, I was just reporting what someone else was claiming. I was just reacting to what they said. So I fed into that shit. And when I thought that there was going to be a title change based on what these people were saying, Tiffany Stratton, she was the last opportunity next to Cody Rhodes for a title change. And there was no way Kevin Owens was beating Cody Rhodes for the championship right now. No way whatsoever. So that led to the main event, Cody Rhodes retaining the undisputed WWE championship over Kevin Owens. Now, there was a couple of ref bumps, old school ref bumps, by the way. And this was, this had a retro vibe to it, especially when Jesse is reacting to it as well. We got a ref bump and Kevin Owens hits a stunner. So Kevin Owens is pinning Cody Rhodes. There's no referee to do the count. So, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now another ref comes out and he ends up getting knocked out. So now you got two refs. Now during this, Kevin Owens grabs a chair. Kevin Owens is going to use the chair on Cody Rhodes, swings and misses. Cody Rhodes sees the chair on the mat and he's going to hit Kevin Owens with crossroads. Then he's like, you know what? Fuck it. The chair's on the mat. He hits Kevin Owens with crossroads onto the chair. And out of nowhere, after he throws the chair on the floor, Charles Robinson hits the ring. And Charles Robinson does the count. So Cody Rhodes retains the championship. Kevin Owens looking very dejected going up the rampway. And we go off the air. Listen, Cody Rhodes bringing back the winged belt was a nice touch to it. I did get a kick out of people this week who thought that there was a possibility Kevin Owens would pull a Mr. Perfect and destroy the winged eagle belt. As I said on yesterday's report, I didn't think that was going to happen because, it's not a big enough angle where you're going to destroy a piece of history. Kevin Owens is already over tremendously as a heel. And even during the match with Cody Rhodes tonight, he was baiting Randy Orton. Hey, Randy. And he was calling out Randy, who was obviously not there tonight. That is going to segue to Randy Orton soon. And, the match was good. I didn't think they did, more than what was expected. Now, the big news coming out of this is after cameras go off the air, Kevin Owens hits Cody Rhodes with a package pile driver. Cody Rhodes is out. Stretchers, taken out on a stretcher. Officials trying to break up what Kevin Owens is trying to attack Cody. Kevin Owens picks up the winged eagle belt, starts going up the rampway. Now, I was lucky to get some fan footage, which I shared with you at the beginning. WWE's put out some more professional footage over the last hour, but I can't show that because that'll get us in trouble. So I could show you what I can. But as Kevin Owens is going up the rampway, Triple H shows up and Triple H slaps the title out of Kevin Owens' hands. And Kevin Owens is screaming at Triple H, fuck you, back and forth, a little bit of a push here and there. Obviously, Triple H is not going to get physical. As much as people think one more match, the heart issues, not going to take a chance there. But this adds much more heat onto Kevin Owens. So all the fans that documented it, put it on social media, it went viral almost immediately. And WWE, obviously, because Cody was brought out on a stretcher and because of the heat they're trying to continue with Kevin Owens, because it doesn't stop here. Now, a couple of things news-wise to close out Saturday night's main event. First of all, a lot of you may not know this, but SmackDown this Friday, the 20th, has already been taped. One thing I will tell you, I will not give spoilers. I won't give you a preview either because I don't know how much of what went down WWE is advertising. What I will tell you is that if you do seek out the spoilers, you'll realize that nothing that was taped for this Friday would have led us to believe anything different happening on Saturday night's main event. Their cards were not revealed. So I expect several backstage segments that did not air to the live public that will air on SmackDown. But if you're looking for something that went down that kind of explains what happened on Saturday night's main event, you're not going to find that. Also, Michael Cole, we talked about this 2 months ago, but he mentioned it once again on Saturday night. And that is January 6, 2025. He returns to the Raw commentating team with Pat McAfee. And we've brought it up at least 3 times over the last couple of months. We still don't know what's going to happen with Joe Tessitore. Will he become a backstage segment analyst? Will he be involved with the premium live events? Is he going to go to SmackDown? And if he does, what happens to Wade Barrett and Corey Graves? Does somebody get bumped to NXT? And then if that's the case, what happens with Booker T? Or so something obviously has to be done with Joe Tessitore. I hope they reveal it sooner than later. And finally, as I said before, WWE is going to be doing trades. That is what the transfer window is. Right now, basically, I just figured out, the best way to describe what is happening right now with Nick Aldis, Adam Pearce, and Ava Raine? If you follow baseball, what you're seeing right now is the winter meetings. That's exactly what this is. It's the winter meetings. You have wrestlers meeting with various GMs, and then the GMs are going to try to work out trades. So this, or if you want to call it, this is right before the trade deadline. Maybe that might even be more appropriate. Major League Baseball trade deadline later on in the year. That's what this is. So it's not going to be a draft in any way. When will the trades be announced? My guess is maybe the following SmackDown after Netflix's debut of Raw, or the week after. I don't think it's going to lead into February. And I certainly, unless this, what they could do too? They could do the trades early and then say, okay, the trade doesn't go into effect until the Royal Rumble, which would be asinine. You trade for someone, you want that person right away. So I have a feeling the trade will be the first half of January. I don't see it going into February or March. You have to establish Monday Night Raw on Netflix right from the get-go. The first episode is special, obviously, but after week 2, week 3, you have to have that roster set. So I think that's what's going to happen. You mark my words, first half of January, I believe that the trades will go down. You know what would be creative? If somebody, let's say, is wrestling on Monday Night Raw, and after their match, they find out that they've been traded to either NXT or SmackDown. That would be interesting if somebody is live there and like, oh, you've been traded. Like trade alert. Kind of like when you watch news broadcasts, like Fox News Alert, CNN News Alert, trade alert. Here the trade is going down while the show's on. So I think that would be pretty cool the more I think about it. Drew McIntyre. Boy, he caused controversy the last 2 days. Loved every minute of it. People really bought into, and this is something that Kevin and I have been stressing for the last 6 months. Blurring the line of reality and storyline is what WWE has been doing spectacular in the last year. Drew McIntyre is part of that. A lot of Drew McIntyre, what he says, it's real. It's real life. And you put that in a storyline twist, and that's why, if you remember 2-3 weeks ago, we were talking about some of the most memorable promos in AEW and WWE It's when people are talking from the heart, not from a script. Drew McIntyre did that on Busted Open Radio, and people thought that when he stormed off of Busted Open Radio that he really was like pissed off at those guys, and this was all done by design to set up SmackDown and Raw and Saturday night's main event. And again, listen, there's several people that I like at Busted Open Radio. I have my reasons why I don't like Dave LaGreca at all, but we've figured out a couple of years ago what Busted Open Radio is. That's why when you hear, certain host says, oh, this person feels that Solo Sikoa should win the Royal Rumble. Like, it's obviously a show for, a different type of audience, so having Drew McIntyre on there and doing that, Busted Open Radio is close to the only wrestling podcast out there that WWE will acknowledge publicly. So things like this will go down there because it's safe. It's a safe place to do it. Even when there's interviews being done, they don't have to worry about any gotcha questions or anything that could go a little over the top. But for those that missed it, here is Drew McIntyre talking to Bully Ray, Dave LaGreca, and listen closely to his complaints about the internet, because I'm going to bring up something right after this, and people will understand why this was a masterpiece by Drew McIntyre. The emotions are real, but him going after the IWC, masterpiece.
I felt a few months ago I'd be really happy. I've always given to this industry, probably too much, and I never really feel like I got too much back, and I would be over the moon if I felt like people were following suit and it was going to be good for industry in the future. And to be completely honest, after Hell in the Cell, I went back home. A close family member died. I don't care about the staples in my head, all that shit. Like, I can get over injuries. I've showed up with broken bones. I never told the office and worked right through it. But I've never had true time at home ever in 17 years. I've only ever been home when there's a wrestling show. I've missed weddings, birthdays, some funerals I should have been at just for this industry. My mum passed. I went home for a couple of weeks. I was straight back at work. I never truly dealt with it. And then going home this time and spending real time with my family, I realized I might have made a mistake. I've given and given and given and given to this industry, and it's taken and taken and taken from my real family. And I'm trying to keep it together. I respect everybody sitting with me right now. But as much as we're on the road, we call each other family. That's a matter of convenience. I was with my real family, and when I was gone for that 3 months, I can count on pretty much one finger how many people checked in, like, how you doing, Drew? And it really opened my eyes. What's going on around here. I tried to stay away from the social media and the likes. Obviously, I'll be back ripping people, being myself, but I see things like someone cuts a 1 minute promo and that's the best promo of the year, or what have you done for me lately? The same old crap. And it occurred to me, like, why are we placating so much to the smart marks, to the internet fans? When did things change? And I realized it wasn't like when we started together, I was a young kid. It's when we started letting the marks in the locker room. And it's really getting to me, and I hate to say this, I gave and gave and gave. And as far as in wrestling on TV is concerned, I'm going to take and take and take. Like, tomorrow morning, I'm still going to be out there helping the homeless, things that really mean something to me. But when it comes to Drew McIntyre on TV, Drew McIntyre in general, I really hate to say this because I didn't believe it till the past, until I saw the proof right in front of my face, the lack of contact, and the look in my family's face, and realizing everything that I've missed, that I'm just going to take from now on. I'm going to leave this industry. I won't be one of those guys when I was a kid in the locker room during the Indies, so we're just chasing that last paycheck, just chasing that last shot of glory. Please remember me. When I leave, when I retire, I'll have accomplished everything. And it doesn't matter if you're Mark Henry, Billy Ray, Tommy Dreamer, Drew McIntyre, Stone Cold Steve Austin. When you're gone, they move on. They forget. And it sucks, but it's true. So as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the internet, I don't give a fuck about your opinion.
For everyone out there that thinks that Drew McIntyre suddenly has this tremendous disdain for the internet wrestling community and the smart marks, number one, remember, guys, when he was building up to the pinnacle, which was Hell in a Cell with CM Punk, he was utilizing social media and trolling CM Punk spectacularly. You remember the infamous meme where Drew McIntyre is in front of the tombstone, and it even went on a shirt. You got to think back this year as to how much Drew McIntyre utilized social media to advance his character, his storylines, his feuds. And he continues to do it now. When he won his match tonight and he said 1 down, 4 to go. Where did that video come from? He posted it on social media. So Drew McIntyre is just a master at what he's doing right now. I will tell you this, Kevin and I gotta have some fun with this on Monday. Pay close attention to the people out there who are extremely vague and when they claim things. There's a particular wrestler out there that was talking about disturbing video that they've seen. You probably know what I'm talking about. And, this wrestler didn't want to mention what it was. And he just said, I saw a video earlier, it's disturbing. And if anybody that, they reach out to this part. And if you go and you look, it's Karrion Kross's Twitter. If you go look, there's certain podcasts there. And this podcaster goes, ooh, if you're talking about the video that I saw earlier, that was disturbing. Now, most people out there think that Karrion Kross was talking about Drew McIntyre, but what's funny was this podcast wrote that, and then you had about 500 people asking him, what story are you talking about? They're not asking Kross, they're asking this and the podcast that didn't respond. Because the podcast had no idea what Karrion Kross was talking about. And he was afraid that if he would have wrote, yeah, I saw what Drew said earlier, and then Kross says, no, I wasn't talking about Drew. Obviously the person looks stupid. So, yeah. But Drew McIntyre, master at what he's doing right now. Telling you that's another reason why Kevin and I have both said, if you put Cody Rhodes aside, Drew McIntyre has a legitimate argument of Wrestler of the Year. Just performance. It's not just about wins or losses. It's just everything that he has done has been really top notch. So, all right, we wrap up the WWE part of this episode, talking quick results from SmackDown Friday. And yeah, much love for everyone out there who picked up on it. We recently talked about if Naomi pulls the Piper and offers to take Jade Cargill's spot and defend the tag team titles with Bianca Belair. That's exactly what they did on SmackDown. Naomi offers, and next week on SmackDown, Naomi teams up with Bianca Belair, defends the Women's World Tag Team Championships against Candice LeRae and Nia Jax. That preview I can say because that obviously was announced during Friday's SmackDown. Jimmy Uso opened up SmackDown, cutting a promo about Survivor Series, and he ends up getting attacked by Drew McIntyre. Tiffany Stratton loses to Michin, obviously, to advance to the U.S. Women's Championship finals that took place earlier on Saturday night's main event. Chelsea Green defeated Bayley to advance to the finals as well. Carmelo Hayes, his mystery opponent, happened to be Braun Strowman. And Braun Strowman squashed Carmelo Hayes. Now, listen, I'm not going to lie. When I saw it, I was definitely disappointed as well. All I'll tell everyone out there is don't get too frustrated with Carmelo Hayes. I don't think the man is being buried. You remember with Giovanni Vinci? That felt different. Carmelo Hayes, though, Triple H has a lot of high hopes for. Right now, it just feels like Triple H has that vibe that fans enjoy Carmelo Hayes talking smack and laying on his back, more than anything else. And that will continue. And that'll help get Carmelo Hayes. I don't think he's damaged goods in any way, shape, or form. And I think Carmelo Hayes in no time will start getting some significant wins. And, I'm not just saying one win. I say numerous wins. Roman Reigns called out Solo Sikoa, and the match has been confirmed. On the first Netflix Raw, January 6th, Roman Reigns will fight Solo Sikoa in tribal combat for the Ula Fala. the rights to be tribal chief. Many of us thought it could happen on Saturday night's main event. Could have happened at the Royal Rumble, but it is happening on the first Raw for 2025 on Netflix. And, that appears to be the main event. So we are getting that. Now, LA Knight ended up getting his ass kicked. He first started throwing digs at the Ulafala, both bloodline groups. And then Solo Sikoa was cutting a promo in the ring, and LA Knight interrupted it. They ended up having a match, and before you knew it, Tama Tonga, Jacob Fatu are attacking LA Knight. Andrade and Apollo Crews made the save, but the bloodline kicked their asses too. And this will set up down the line a match between all 6 members. Another spectacular vignette involving Shinsuke Nakamura. And the main event was a confrontation. Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, a last word interview. Originally, we thought Kevin Owens didn't show up, showed him on the Titantron in his car. Cody Rhodes is in the ring, but he ends up showing up and ends with a massive brawl to set up Saturday night's main event. So decent SmackDown episode, good, lead in to Saturday night's main event. And now with the match for Raw, Solo Sikoa, Roman Reigns, pretty big match. And we got to see, where this leads the bloodline after Royal Rumble. Because you think about The Rock, you think about Cody Rhodes, obviously this all continues in some form or fashion. We got to see where it goes from here. And plus, Cody teasing that they're going to go in a direction no one is expecting. Lord knows what he was talking about. So, okay, let's move on very quickly. We got to address this. Unfortunately, the clickbait media is trying to stir up shit between Camille and AEW. Now, listen, the day that Camille showed up and she was in Mercedes Moné, I went on the show and told everyone, I said, look, they're pairing them together so the fans don't immediately say, oh, Camille, I want to see her fight Mercedes Moné. It's kind of like what they did early on with Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker. Like, because they were a duo, they were aligned with each other. Like, it would shut people up and say, oh, Jamie Hayter, I want to see you take on Britt Baker. Now, later on, when they teased Ascension, fans started to say that. But I always felt from day one, they put them together that quickly so fans would not push for that match. But they made her more of like a bodyguard. And Camille is yet to really show what she can do. She did an interview with Covalent TV. And she was asked about her goals in AEW. Now, the reason why I say that the low-rent news sites, led by Ringside News, they're trying to stir up shit with Camille and AEW. And the reason why I say that is because the thumbnail that not only they put out there, but a lot of people are reacting to, it says Camille blames, listen to this closely, Camille blames AEW for poor presentation of her character. So when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, Camille opened up her mouth. Wow. I got to hear this clip of Camille talking about poor presentation. So I asked a few people, I'm like, could somebody give me the clip? I'm curious, what she said. So somebody on Patreon sent me the clip, and I'm going to read it to you. It's only 4 sentences. You tell me if this sounds like her, quote, blaming AEW for poor presentation of her character. She says, and I quote, I still feel like the AEW world hasn't even seen a glimmer of what I have to offer. Even being able to talk and show some personality. I'm really excited for AEW fans to get to know me a little bit better. It's about introducing that side of me to the fans. If someone says, oh, there's no personality, I mean, to be honest, I'd agree with them up to this point because I haven't gotten a chance to show it. So I'm really excited for everyone to see that I'm more than just standing there making faces. Does that sound like she threw AEW under the bus? I didn't think so. Did she say poor presentation? Again, sometimes you got to read the clips and not just read a thumbnail. Unfortunately, even the biggest media outlets out there picked up and ran with it and they're just as guilty as trying to stir shit up between AEW and Camille, which I think is a little bit, it's unfair to Camille because that did not sound like that was where she was going with that, to be honest with you. All right. Since we're talking about AEW, let's get in a couple of quick results. Rampage Winter is Coming results from Friday. Matt Cardona over Brian Keith. Toni Storm beat Harley Cameron. Deonna Purrazzo over Shazza McKenzie. Powerhouse Hobbs and Mark Davis defeating Konosuke Takeshita and Lance Archer. Now, Toni Storm, okay, she's been interesting conversation online with a lot of people because they are upset that she's already wrestling on television. Rampage, Collision, she's being wasted on those shows. I think people need to pay attention to what Toni Storm's new character is, and this is her experimenting right now. I tell you, at first, I thought it was ridiculous, but then I thought it was hilarious on Saturday night. Because Toni Storm cut a promo on Saturday night's Collision, and she announced that as of Saturday, she is officially all elite. So now you say to yourself, wait a minute, she's been all elite for a couple of years now. What is she talking about? Well, now you understand why she's wrestling on Rampage and Collision. I guess the character is supposed to be that, whatever she was at that time, she was timeless. Now she's lost in time. So she thinks that everything is new. You get what I'm saying? Like, Timeless is dead. She doesn't remember Timeless. She's lost in time. She thinks it's 2 years ago. So she's wrestling. I know it sounds goofy on the surface. I think it could work. Look how great she pulled off the Timeless. So I think because she was so good with doing Timeless, we should give her a chance and see how she goes with this. But as of right now, to summarize it, Timeless Toni Storm is now lost in time Toni Storm, and she just announced she is officially all elite. Yeah. Collision, Winter is Coming results. Non-Continental Classic matches. Toni Storm over Shazza McKenzie. Action Andretti and Leo Rush defeated Top Flight. So they are now the new number one contenders, I believe, for the tag titles. Chris Statlander over Tootie Lynn, and for the International Women's Cup qualifier to wrestle for New Japan's Wrestle Dynasty, Willow Nightingale defeated Jamie Hayter. And your two Continental Classic Blue League matches from Collision, Okada defeated the Beast Mortis, and Mark Briscoe defeated Kyle Fletcher. Yep. We joked yesterday, bet the ranch, that Kyle Fletcher was going to start losing 2 out of the next 3 matches, and he was going to lose to Mark Briscoe. So now all of a sudden, Kyle Fletcher has 9, Okada has 7, Mark Briscoe has 6, Daniel Garcia has 4, Shelton Benjamin has 3, and the Beast Mortis has a goose egg. On the gold side, nothing changed. Claudio, Ricochet, and Will Ospreay are all tied in the lead with 6. Brody King with 3, Darby Allin with 3, and Commander with a goose egg. Moving on to NXT, the only news that we have for this weekend is that they had a house show Saturday night in Orlando, Florida at the Englewood Neighborhood Center. Match results, Cale Dixon and Uriah Connors over Tyrick Eway and Tyson DuPont. Danny Palmer over Callie Armstrong. Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura defeated Charlie Dempsey and Miles Bourne. Cora Jade defeats Kalani Jordan. Now, this is a match that they're, I believe, setting up for a future NXT episode. Fallon Henley defeated Stephanie Vacker by disqualification. Fallon Henley still remains the NXT Women's North American Champion. Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley over Fatal Influences, JC Jane and Jasmine Nixon. They are the reasons that caused the disqualification in favor of Fallon Henley. Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley got involved. That led to the next match, and they defeated JC Jane and Jasmine Nix. Dante Chen over Ethan Page. Wow, Ethan Page is main roster bound. Very, very soon. Wow, Dante Chen over Ethan Page. Wow, Julia defeated Nikita Lyons. I know that made a lot of people happy. The family of Tony D'Angelo, Stax, and Luca Crucifino defeated Gallus. You had Roxanne Perez retain the women's championship, defeating Ren Sinclair. And the main event, it was Trick Williams and Javon Evans defeating Brooks Jensen and Sean Spears. All right, let's wrap up this episode with a little TNA. Final resolution. I'm still doing this, guys. It's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. I know we haven't done 90 minutes, but I've had to edit and do a little research as we're doing this. So everything is spliced seamlessly together. TNA Final Resolution went down on Friday night. Couple of things very, very noteworthy. First off, Rhino announced on Facebook that he is leaving the company effective Saturday. His last match, which by now has taken place, he was facing Ryan Nemeth. And his statement was, and I quote, "Tomorrow is my last day with TNA Wrestling. I am wrestling Ryan Nemeth. It will most likely be the last time ever I will wrestle in a TNA ring. If you could make it to center stage in Atlanta, come and be part of this 5-year chapter in my life and journey. Thank you to all the amazing wrestling fans for your support. I'm not done wrestling, but TNA and I have parted ways." Boy, does that sound like a falling out. But then again, they let him wrestle one more match. So interesting to make that extra statement that it'll likely be the last time ever I wrestle in a TNA ring. Wow. That's interesting right there. He was put in the Hall of Fame, not even 2 months ago. So I just wonder what falling out could have happened. I mean, no one's heard anything about contract, but this leads me to Tessa Blanchard. Tessa Blanchard made her shocking return to TNA at Final Resolution. She attacked Jordynne Grace, and this is going to set up a feud. Now, a couple of things I want to let everybody know, common sense, obvious, that Jordynne Grace agreed to have this feud with Tessa Blanchard, which was part of the reason why this went down at Final Resolution. And, what people need to understand is this. TNA is on some great momentum right now. I mean, there's no denying it, but at the same time, Rhino's obviously way past his prime, but, Rhino's still very much beloved and respected in wrestling. But you look at Josh Alexander, exiting the company. You look at Speedball Mike Bailey exiting the company. You look at Jordynne Grace ultimately exiting the company. There's been rumors of Joe Hendry leaving TNA in early 2025. And then you hear about some other contracts are coming up for expiration soon. You have to replace these wrestlers with somebody. And Jordynne Grace, I mean, if people haven't noticed, what TNA has done for the last bunch of years is they have that one very strong, dominant woman in the company. They had Tessa Blanchard. She left. They replaced her with Deonna Purrazzo. Deonna Purrazzo, if you remember, TNA pushed her big time early on. In some points, it felt forced, but guess what? Deonna Purrazzo rose up, stepped up, and she earned everything that she got, and she went to the next level. Jordynne Grace is now that person. So now with Tessa Blanchard returning, she is the next dominant, huge female attraction that that TNA wants to have in that company. They want that one woman. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and stick up for Tessa Blanchard. There's a lot about her that I don't like. She rubs me the wrong way. She comes off, insincere at times. She recently really, got raw in her conversation, talking about some serious mental health issues. I will not, dispute or, challenge her on that, because if it's true, and she really was battling that, who am I to, question it? You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. Listen, there's people out there that will take that card and they're full of shit. I got to be honest with you. My gut feeling tells me is that Tessa Blanchard, just handles situations differently than you and I would. It doesn't justify it. It's not everybody can be that person to break down and cry and, apologize and this and that. I don't know what happened between her and La Rosa Negra. She denies it. There's been no incident since. I don't know what to believe. There are some women in wrestling that believe that Tessa Blanchard is a problem. There's fans that feel that way as well. But at some point, you have to give somebody a second chance, in my honest opinion. She may not be the most likable person, but guess what? In the history of wrestling, or at least the last 30, 40 years, there's been a lot of assholes that have wrestled and have become legends. I'm not saying that Tessa Blanchard will be a legend, but if the worst thing that she did was say something very, very stupid and didn't have the classiness to admit it and apologize, all we could do is hope that over the last bunch of years of having to wrestle for low rent promotions and not getting the money and opportunities and status that she probably should have deserved or earned, hopefully that wised her up. Hopefully that matured her a little bit. CM Punk, we remember CM Punk when he left WWE 10 years ago. And, we all had this vibe about CM Punk. And even when he was in, AEW, you questioned his behavior a little bit. Now, since he's been in WWE, most of us believe that this guy truly has matured. Being married, getting older, seeing that, you don't have many years left in wrestling, it kind of, humbles you a little bit. So all I could say is, for the people out there that are trying to nail Tessa Blanchard to the cross and protesting and balking and just absolutely like trashing the decision, just lighten up a little bit. It doesn't, take away anything that she has done in the past. All we could do is hope that she has learned from it and, has improved. That's it. There's no question she's talented in the ring, but let's also keep in perspective, what she's being accused of. Horrible shit to say, no question. Not the nicest person out there, no question. But to turn around and try to blackball her out of wrestling, I think some people need to sometimes look in the mirror and say, you know what? Your life is not that perfect either. So, all right. Before I get into the final topic, which was the incident with Eddie Edwards and a fan, let me give you some quick match results, and I'll mention Joe Henry for a second. Final resolution, Moose retains the X Division Championship, defeating Kushida. The Rascals defeated Sami Callihan and PCO, along with Jake Sumpton. Now, after the match was over, we had this little vignette, a teaser, somebody coming in, and they keep using the numbers 23. I haven't had a chance to look into to see who it could be, but I will definitely spend some time this week and try to find out. I'll ask a few people too, but something tells me I won't get the answer, but doesn't mean it won't be fun trying. Ace Austin over Trent 7. Jordan Grace versus Rosemary ended up in a no contest when Tessa Blanchard returned, attacked Jordan Grace, unmasked to reveal that it was Tessa Blanchard. We'll save the the Joe Hendry match in a second. Masha Slamovic retained the Knockouts Championship, defeating Tasha Steelz. For the Tag Team Championships, the Hardys defeated the System to retain the titles. And for the world title, Nick Nemeth retains over AJ Francis. Now, the only match that I got wrong was the four-way number one contenders match for the world championship. It was Joe Hendry defeating Josh Alexander, Mike Santana, and Steve Macklin. I honestly did not expect Joe Hendry to win this match, but he did. So now that means Joe Hendry is once again the number one contender for Nick Nemeth's title. And Joe Hendry will get that title match at Genesis on January 19th. So, you think of the Royal Rumble. This is shortly before the Royal Rumble. Most people think that Joe Hendry is WWE bound. Now, with numerous names exiting this company and other names rumored to be exiting as well, is it possible that TNA, I don't want to say opened the bank book, but maybe made an offer to Joe Hendry to try to keep him with the company for at least another year? I truthfully believe Joe Hendry, this will be his shot. He either wins this world championship or he is gone from TNA. In fact, I would not be surprised if they had a stipulation. In fact, there was rumblings a while back that there would be a stipulation added to a Joe Hendry match, but I wonder if they add a stipulation that if Joe Hendry loses, he is out of TNA. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously too soon because Final Resolution only went down a little more than 24 hours ago. But Joe Hendry does get that championship. I'll tell you this much. Joe Hendry could win the TNA World Championship, show up at the Royal Rumble as the champion. Because remember, Jordan Grace did that last year at the Royal Rumble. And then Joe Hendry maybe could stay in TNA for a few extra months. I don't think WWE is in desperate need right now for Joe Hendry to enter the company, even if he's NXT bound. Joe Hendry was great for his appearances in NXT. But I don't think that is a piece that WWE needs to, must have to get. Now, obviously, if a contract is being offered, maybe WWE is going to give him a better offer. No question. I mean, sometimes you don't want to pass up on an opportunity. But I think this is a case here where if TNA offers the right price, they could convince Joe Hendry to stay for another 3 months, 6 months, a year. Then you play your cards with WWE. Joe Hendry had an awesome 2024. But personally, that match that he had with Nick Nemeth and ended up in a loss, I mean, that just took the air out of a balloon for a lot of people out there, including yours truly. So the fact that he's getting a second title opportunity tells me I think he's going to get it. I truly believe Joe Hendry will win that championship. But if he doesn't, no question, he's got to be gone from TNA. All right, we wrap up this episode. Once again, I will not be doing an episode of the Sit Down tonight. I apologize. I don't think we've missed one in Lord knows how long, but it's almost 3:00 in the morning here, and I'm still doing this. And keep in mind, guys, I still got to add video. And when you see videos and thumbnails and stuff, I got to download them, splice them in, sync it up with the show. Takes a while. So I'm probably going to be relaxing Sunday night. But don't forget, Monday night after Raw, 10:15 p.m., Kevin and I will be live on our Discord channel, dtkcdiscord.com. And next Sunday, Kevin and I will be joining me on YouTube, 8 p.m. for a special Christmas episode. All right, I want to finish this episode talking about the incident with the fan and Eddie Edwards at Final Resolution. I don't know how you feel about the situation as far as who you blame for it. I have a few thoughts, but just to summarize it, Eddie Edwards is fighting on the pay-per-view. He's a big heel in TNA, and he's jaw-jacking with fans sitting at ringside. So there's one guy at ringside. I don't know, he's probably like in his late 20s. I think he had a little kid with him. And he's giving Eddie Edwards the finger. All right. Now, should he have given any wrestler the finger in front of a kid? That's up for debate. But he's given Eddie Edwards the finger. Now, this fan has a water bottle in his hand, and it's to his side. And Eddie Edwards exchanged a couple of words with the fan, and Eddie Edwards proceeds to knock the water bottle out of the fan's hand. Funny thing is, if you watch Triple H knocking the title out of Kevin Owens' hand, it kind of reminded me of the same thing. They knocked, like, it looks the same. Eddie Edwards knocks the water bottle out of the fan's hand. So it looked like the fan was like, fuck you. And Eddie Edwards like, what are you going to do about it? And the fan slapped Eddie Edwards in the face. Not hard, but gave him a slap. Eddie Edwards followed back with a huge slap. And next thing you know, the officials at TNA escort the fan away from ringside. Now, news reports online were saying that he was quickly handed over to police. This is not ICE, guys, where he's brought to the back and like, okay, officers, you take care of him. That's not what happened. I talked to someone who was backstage. Basically, what happened with this fan, say he was thrown out of the building. Don't know if he was trespassed, but they think that he was trespassed. Eddie Edwards did not press charges against the fan. Fan was not arrested, but the report was still taken because when you trespass, there is an official report taken. And if this fan is seen in that building again, maybe it's within a year, could be lifetime. I don't think it's lifetime. The slap, listen, how I feel about the slap, I'll tell you in a second, but this was not as big of listen, it wasn't a tremendous incident, but it was definitely an incident. And the fan needed to get ejected. The minute you put your hands on a wrestler, you get ejected. There's no question. But, Eddie Edwards did not press charges. And TNA, obviously, there's no reason for them to press charges. But keep in mind, too, and I know this is going to sound controversial, but in many states, and I also believe in the state of Georgia, that Eddie Edwards could possibly be charged with simple assault by knocking the water bottle out of the fan's hand. I know it sounds nuts, but believe it or not, there are some states that you don't necessarily have to, assault someone a certain way. That could be interpreted in a way. My point is that Eddie Edwards could also get in trouble for this. Now, who's to blame? I mean, in my honest opinion, I think I don't see myself as an older man giving the finger to a wrestler, no matter who it is. Unless it's a friend of mine, he knows I'm just trolling him. He knows I don't mean it or whatever, just going along with it. But especially if I have a kid with me. But if I'm Eddie Edwards, no matter what, I don't slap the water bottle out of the fan's hand. So I blame Eddie Edwards for escalating this further. You're a heel. Sticks and stones may break my bones. No matter what that guy said, I don't think you put your hands on that fan. Now, the minute you knock that water bottle out of the fan's hand, look, if I'm, insulting a wrestler and I have a soda or a water bottle or a beer in my hand, and that wrestler knocks the shit out of my hand, I might have a simple human reaction to it and be like, fuck you, and smack him in the face. Still not right. Fan deserved to be ejected, no question. So I do believe that they were both wrong. But I also believe Eddie Edwards should not have slapped the water bottle out of his hand. Now, look, who knows? Maybe we'll find out later that he said something so fucked up that Eddie Edwards, did that. But this person told me that the guy was brought backstage and, police were there to document the incident. Not sure about the trespass, but he was not arrested. I think the news people online that were reporting about being handed over to police, I think that's more to send a message to fans like, under no circumstances do you put your hands on a wrestler. And I agree with that, under no circumstances. But at the same time, though, I feel under no circumstance should a wrestler be knocking anything out of a fan's hand, unless it's a weapon, and you fear for your safety. But yeah, that's what happened. So that's it, guys. I'm out of here. Hope you enjoyed this extended report. As I started this report tonight, I realized that it was going to be a little bit longer. And because of the amount of work and how late it is, we're going to put this up and leave it up an extra day. This way, we hold off to sit down until next week with Kev. So, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Much love as always. I hope you could join Kev and I live Monday night after Raw for the DTKC show. We're definitely going to talk more about some of the topics we got into today, and we have a few other topics to get into as well. Big shout out to everybody who got a good laugh about my cowboy bitch discussion about Hangman Adam Page getting upset at Logan Paul. Listen, Logan Paul's not retired. He is not retired. And again, I don't want to reiterate what I said yesterday, but Hangman Adam Page is is the last person that should be talking about wrestlers using a moveset. Plus, with all due respect, how amateurish does that sound for a professional wrestler be saying the word moveset? You know what I mean? Think about it. This is suspension of disbelief. And he's talking about movesets. Listen, back in the day, and I brought this up yesterday, when Ken Shamrock was doing the ankle lock, and, people were, getting upset because Kurt Angle was still using it. That was the fans doing that. Kurt Angle had some fun with it afterwards, but, again, you look at how many AEW wrestlers that are using finishers that current WWE wrestlers are using, and I brought up even the curb stomp as a good example. There's others too. Again, Kyle Fletcher thinks he's Randy Orton, but that happens on the opposite side as well. Logan Paul does the buckshot lariat. Definitely, he got that probably from watching Hangman Page, but Hangman Page did not originate that move. So, whatever. Just people bitching as always. But guys, keep supporting the website, dtkcshow.com. Go check it out. It's about 80% done. I'm kind of proud of it because it's me doing all that scrolling stuff and the background work. That's all me playing around with it. So far, so good. That should launch completely by January 1. The history shows will be upgraded by January 1. And 2025, Kevin and I are taking back our crown. Be well, everybody. Much love. I'll catch you all again soon. Ciao.